Former President Donald Trump was found not guilty of inciting an insurrection, ending the second impeachment trial of his administration and the fourth in U.S. history. The final vote was 57-43, with 7 GOP senators voting to convict. Just over a week after Capitol Police started removing the barrier surrounding the U.S. Capitol complex, a knife-wielding suspect rammed a car into a security checkpoint, killing a U.S. Capitol Police officer and injuring another. It was her first day on the job, but that didn't stop Deb Haaland, the first Native American cabinet secretary, from taking the time to meet with supporters outside the Department of the Interior. Trump's trip to Republican-heavy rural Arizona is important as he needs to dominate the area to secure a win in Arizona. A poll from OH Predictive and sponsored by AARP revealed that older voters found Biden more trustworthy on most issues and have him leading by 2 points. While a relatively negligible lead, it puts pressure on Trump as the over 50 group is predicted to decide the election in Arizona. I'm standing in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue, where on a typical night I would have been hit by now. But due to the extensive security precautions put in place ahead of President-elect Biden's inauguration, downtown Washington is a ghost town. We've all seen the images, long lines of people waiting for food as COVID-19 continues to hammer the economy. But a large number of people in need may not be taking advantage of the help that's out there, a trend that continues, advocates say, despite the rising need. Arizona businesses have filed 131,000 applications since the program began last year and received about $11.6 billion in loans, says Shivani Dubey, Deputy District Director in Arizona for the Small Business Association. The For the People Act is described as a bill to expand Americans' access to the ballot box while also limiting the influence of dark money and gerrymandering. But critics say this bill is for the politicians, not the people. Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko has been an outspoken detractor of H.R. 1.
H.R. 1 is a concerted effort by the liberals to stack the deck in their court. And in my opinion, to make sure that Democrats are always elected.
Critics like Lesko point to the bill's emphasis on new federal rules to expand voter registration and to reduce big money in politics with a fund to help small individual donors fund campaigns. Congressman Tom O'Halloran rejects claims that this bill is a quote-unquote political ploy and says it's all about making voting more accessible.
Every American has the right to vote, and we should not restrict that right. We should allow that right to be done in a way that is representative of the great democracy that we are. And that means that there shouldn't be hindrances put in the way of people to be allowing them to vote.
The almost 800-page bill also includes provisions on ballot security, ethics reforms, and even statehood for the District of Columbia, which Lesko says shows its overreach.
H.R. 1 totally destroys states' rights. And so in the state of Arizona, for instance, we have prohibited ballot harvesting. It's illegal. This bill, H.R. 1, would override our state law on that, which is wrong.
O'Halloran agrees that states have a role in election laws, but argues that with the huge amount of money that goes into federal elections, there needs to be some level of oversight.
I think the most important thing is that we have fair and clean elections, that the process is one in which the people of America, when they vote, especially for federal offices, this is for, is to know that when they leave the polling place, their vote counts.
The bill still needs to go to the Senate, but if passed, the goal is to have most of these measures implemented by the 2022 election. In Washington, Jake Holter, Cronkite News. The scene is all too familiar. Police tape stretched across the scene of a mass shooting as grieving survivors look on. And in Washington today, the arguments that came in the wake of that shooting were familiar too.
Inaction has made this horror completely predictable. Inaction by this Congress makes us complicit.
But while Senator Richard Blumenthal urges Congress to act on gun control, Texas Senator Ted Cruz said Congress needs to act on toughening criminal sanctions, not gun rights.
There are steps we can take to stop these crimes. And you know what the steps aren't? The steps aren't disarming law-abiding citizens.
The Judiciary Committee hearing came just hours after a lone gunman walked into a King Soopers grocery in Boulder, Colorado, and opened fire in a shooting spree that killed 10 people, including a responding police officer. Robin Thomas, the executive director of the Giffords Law Center, testified that gun violence in the U.S. continues to climb.
Gun deaths in the United States reached their highest level in almost 40 years, with 40,000 Americans dying from gun violence in 2019. Unfortunately, it's a problem unique to our country. Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed by a gun than people in other developed nations.
The hearing comes 2 weeks after the House passed a pair of bills aimed at strengthening background checks on gun buyers to make them required for individual sales and sales at gun shows. Thomas said the bills, which are awaiting Senate action, protect Second Amendment rights while acting to prevent more shootings like Boulder.
We can meaningfully address this by updating our gun laws to ensure both law-abiding Americans have a right to gun ownership, and we can prevent these horrific acts of gun violence that are occurring on a daily basis.
No hearing has been set yet on the two House bills, but Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin, a longtime supporter of gun control, said Congress needs to act.
We face a pandemic of coronavirus. We have another epidemic in America called guns.
While today's hearing dealt with federal law, much gun regulation takes place at the state level. And groups like Giffords and Everytown, which regularly study gun laws, give Arizona failing grades for what they call the state's lax regulations. In Washington, Jake Holter, Cronkite News.